Hello guys, how are you all doing? In today's video, I'll tell you about all the data types in Python. So let's begin. In total, there are 5 different data types in Python, which is numbers, none, sequence, sets, and mapping. So we are going to briefly discuss about all of them. The first data type is numbers. So in numbers, there are 4 subcategories, which is integer, floating point, complex, and boolean. So first coming to integer. So integer contains all the positive and negative numbers, and there is a predefined function in Python which is type. So if you will write type and then in brackets you will write any data, so it will just tell you about the data type of that value. So let's say if I am writing 50, it will tell that it is an integer. You can see here. So let's say I write type of minus 45, let's say. So it's writing int. So in integers it contains all the positive and negative numbers. Now coming to the second, float points. So float points are the decimal numbers in Python. So let's take an example of, let's say 50.4. So that will show its float. So there is another method of representing decimal numbers by using exponent. So let's say I have to write 0.005. So what I can do is write 5, then e, then minus 3. So what it means is that 5 into 10 raised to power minus 3. So let's see the output. It's float. And if I'll write print the same 5 e raised to power minus 3, then it's going to print 0.005. So e basically means multiply by 10 and then raised to power whatever the number is written after that. Now coming to the third type, which is complex numbers. So complex numbers are the sum of real and imaginary part. So let's take an example. So let's say a number which has real part 45 and then plus the imaginary part is, let's say, 23. So in imaginary part you have to write j. So let's see the type. It's complex, and if you want to print complex number, so you can just write complex, then brackets, and then the real part comma the imaginary part. So let's say the real part is 12 comma the imaginary part, let's say 45, and now we have to write print so it has printed 12 plus 45j. So 12 is the real part and 45j is the imaginary part. So let's say let's define a variable that a equals to, let's say, 34 plus 45j. So if you want to print separately the real and imaginary part, you can just write print a dot. So for real you have to write real, and now it printed the real part, that is 34. And similarly, if you want to print the imaginary part, you can just write print a dot, then for imaginary it is imag, image. So now you can see it has printed 45, which is the imaginary part. So the complex number is just the sum of the real and imaginary part. So now coming to the last type in the numbers, which is boolean. So boolean contains only two values, that is 0 and 1. 0 means false and 1 means true. So boolean is also known as bool. So you can write type and then true or false. So in boolean, both in true and false, the first letter is capital. So in true, they will be capital. So true, and now you can say the type is bool. So bool also known as boolean. So similar with false, F capital and then false. So it's also a bool. So true means 1 and false means 0. So booleans are often used in loops and conditional statements that I'll cover in later videos. So now coming to the second data type, which is none. So none data type is just empty, and that doesn't mean its value is 0, it's just empty. So if you want to print like say none, so in this too the first letter is capital, so capital N, then NONE, so you can see it has printed none. So if there is none anywhere in the program, the Python will not do anything there. So none has data type of its own, so you can say type and then none. So it has a class none type, so that's a different type and it just means none, nothing. So none is also used oftenly in conditional statements or in many other places in Python, and I'll cover that in later videos. So now coming to the third data type, which is sequence. So sequence have three sub data types. So first let's come to string. String is basically any text or word or line. So in Python, anything which is enclosed in double or single quotes will be string. So let's say type quotes and then let's say hello. So you can say it is showing str, and if you will put a number within the quotes, even though it is a number, but if you put anything in quotes then it will behave as a string. So now you can say it is showing str, and while defining the string you have to just put the quotes. Let's say there is a string 1 and then equals to, just put the quotes and write whatever you want. So let's say hello world. So now when you print str1, you can say it is printing hello world. So if you want to check the type of str1, you can say it is showing string. So that's string in the Python. Now coming to the second subtype, which is tuples. So until now all the data types have only one value. Like you can say when I have defined this variable string1, I have given only one string, that is hello world. And up there when I defined a complex number, that is a equals to 34 plus 45j, so that only has one complex value. But now in list, tuple, dictionary and sets, it has collection of values and it contains mixed data types. So now first coming to tuples. So it is collection of values and the tuple is immutable. So immutable means that once you have defined a tuple, you cannot change anything in it. So defining a tuple is easy. You have to just write the name of the tuple. Let's say I'm saying t, defined within the round brackets. So I'll just put the round brackets. So now between these round brackets, I can write whatever value I want. So let's say first I'm giving a string, let's say hello, and then second I'm giving a integer number, let's say 25. So these values are separated by commas. So another, let's say minus 45, and now I'll give a float, let's say 52.4. Another string, let's say string 2. So now the tuple has been defined and you just have to press enter. So now if you will print t, it will print the whole tuple, but you cannot make any change in this. You cannot add anything to the tuple or remove anything or alter anything. And now coming to list. List is same like tuple, but with a major difference that the lists are mutable, which means the values in the list can be changed, removed or added. So to define list, you have to use square brackets. So first you have to give the name to the list. Let's say I am giving it list 1, then equals to, then you have to use square brackets. So in square brackets you can give any value you want. Let's make it string 1, comma. In this 2 the values are separated using commas. Then I'll give an integer, let's say 9, then 20.4, then string 2, then let's say hello, and a boolean, let's say true. So now list 1 has been defined. So now if we will print list 1, so now you can see that it has printed the list. So now the different functions performed by the list, like removing the values and altering the values, that I'll cover in the later videos. So now coming to the next data type, which is set. So set is also similar like list and tuple, but the main difference is both in tuple and list each element is indexed. And what do I mean by indexed is each element has a certain position, and in Python the position starts with 0. So the hello in the tuple, in this tuple, is at index 0. So 25 is at 1, minus 45 is at 2, and so on. In list 2, string 1 have index 0, 9 have index 1, and so on. So but now in set there is no indexing. So set is used when position of elements doesn't matter. So to define set, we use curly brackets. So just give a name to the set, let's say AB equals to, so now we'll put curly brackets. So between these curly brackets we can write any value. So let's say string 1, any random value, let's say 56 minus 56, 0.54, or let's say 5e minus 5, and so on. So now if you will print AB, it will print the set. So now coming to last data type, which is mapping, that contains dictionary. So dictionary is different from tuple, list and sets, but it too contains collection of word. So dictionary is basically used for mapping, and in dictionary every element has a key and then its value. I'll give you an example. Let's say you want to store the data of some employees. So I'll just give the dictionary name employee emp, let's say equals to, so dictionary are defined using curly brackets. So both sets and dictionary are defined using curly brackets. The main difference is that dictionary contains both key and the value, and the set contains only values. So now let's continue with the example. So employee 1, I'll write 1, and the key 1 is related to employee 1. So I'll just put a colon and the value of that key. So employee 1, so employee 1 is a string, so I'm putting that between the quotes. So employee 1, and now to separate it from different element, I'll put comma. So comma, then second element. So let's say key 2 is related to employee 2. So I'll put single quotes and then employee 2. So now you can just go on like this. So now 3, then quotes employee 3. So that's our dictionary. So it's basically used for mapping, that 1, the key 1 is related to employee 1, 2 to employee 2, and so on. And if you will print this employee, so it's just going to print this. This is the key and that's the value of the key. So now I'll give you another example. Just say there is a restaurant and you have to store the data of menu card. So what you can do, just define the list. Let's say menu equals to, then curly brackets, let's say dish 1. So dish 1 is string, so it will come between the quotes. So dish 1, then colon, and then the price of that list, let's say 100. So you'll just type 100, and it's an integer, so it will not contain any quotes or anything. So let's now give another element, comma, another key dish 2, then colon, and the price of that, let's say 200, and let's just put in another element dish 3, and that say 300. So now the dictionary have been defined. So this is where the dictionary in used, where you have to give a key and then the value related to that key. So I'll just again summarize everything which I told you today. So first was integer, which contained all the positive and negative numbers. Then there was float, which contained decimal numbers. Then the complex numbers, which contained both real and imaginary part. Then there were booleans or bool, which contained either true or false. Then there was none type, which just mean none. Then there was string, which are defined between quotes. Then there was tuple, which is defined between round brackets, which contain all the other data types. And then there was list, which is enclosed between square brackets. Then set, that is not indexed. Then there was dictionary, in which is used when you have to give a value for certain key. And the main difference between list and tuple was that the tuples are immutable and list is mutable. And one thing I forgot to mention is, in tuple, list, set and dictionary, you can write any other data types. So what did I meant by that is, let's say you are defining a list, let's say lis equals to, then close brackets, and let's say you are giving a number 23, then that is int. Now again an integer minus 24. Now let's say give it a tuple 52.4. Now let's say I'm giving it a boolean true, and then we can give a complex number, let's say 45 plus 5j. Then the next data type was string, so let's say string 1. So next was tuple. So what I was saying, that within the list we can also write tuples. So just put round brackets and then you can write values within a tuple which is within the list. So let's say in tuple it contains string 4 whatever, then a value, then let's say bool, and now to close the tuple you have to put the round bracket again to close it. So after that it was list. So within a list you can make another list by putting square brackets and then inserting any value you want, like say 34, string 10, and then 25.6. So and to close that list you have to put the square bracket again. So same could be done with sets, and there could be dictionary within the list. So just put comma, then curly brackets, and then 85 point, let's say 85 is related to the string hello, let's say, and then there is a key hi which is related to number 67. So now we can close the list by putting curly brackets, and now closing the whole list by putting square brackets. So that is our whole list, and if you will enter you can see the list has been defined. So if you will print it, it will just print the whole list. So that's what I was trying to tell you, that any other data type could be put into list, and same could be done with tuple, set and dictionary. So you can put a list within a tuple, or tuple within a list, or set within a tuple. So any data type could be inserted into them. So now coming to second part of video, in which I'll to tell you how to convert between the data types in Python, which is very easy in Python. So let's say I'm defining a variable a equals to 45. So now you know 45 is an integer. So data type of a will be integer. You can check it here, it's saying int. So now if you want to convert the data type of a into, let's say, float, so you have to just write a equals to float, and then brackets, and then the thing which we want to convert into float. So we want a to be converted into float, so a. So now enter, and then if we will print a, you can see it has been converted into float, so it's 45.0. So now take another example. Let's define a variable b which is equals to 45.56. so now you can see it is a float type. So now if you, I'll check it, it's saying float. So now if you will print b, it just print the same number. But if you will convert b into an integer type, you can just write b equals to integer. So for integer it's int of, so I want to convert b into integer, I'll just write b and then enter. So now if I'll print b, it will remove the decimal part and just give me the integer part of the number. So in this I am permanently converting the data type into another data type. What if you just want to print it for that instance? So let's say there is a variable ab equals to 45.36. you can see it is a float, and if you want to print the integral part of ab, so you have to just write print int and then within the brackets ap. So now it will print only the integral part, that is 45, but the type of ab has not changed, because if you will write print ab, you can see it still prints 45.36. it just printed the integral part of the number only for that instance, but the primary data type of the variable has not changed. So same could be done with other data types. Let's say I have a tuple tup1, let's say, and it is defined between round brackets. So let's say string 1, then string 2, then number. So let's say this is a tuple. Now you want to convert this tuple into the list. You have to just write tup1 or any another name you want to give to the list equals to, then you have to write list and then the name of the tuple which you want to convert into list. Let's say tup1, and now if you will print tup1, you can see it has been closed within square brackets. So now it has been converted into list. And what if you want to make another list and not change the data type of the primary tuple? So let's say there is a tuple tup3 and it's a tuple, let's say 34 comma hello, and let's say it is a tuple. So now you want to make a list and also want tup3 to remain as a tuple. So you can give another name to the list. Let's say list1 equals to, so you want to convert it into list, and now the name of the tuple tup3. So now list1 is a list which has been converted from tuple3, and now if you will print tup3, you can see it's still a tuple. And now if you will print the list1, you can see it is a list enclosed within square brackets and tuple enclosed within round brackets. So that's how you can convert between the data types of the Python. And in the next videos I'll discuss about the functions that are related to these data types one by one. So like, share and subscribe, and thanks for watching.